right, and Jonathan, we have about 30 minutes in, we'll be bringing on Berwick. All right. So. Yeah, I seen that. Yeah. It looks like you were geared up. You were geared up for football or something. Oh, okay. Right. I don't know where I have one of those Bitcoin forks around here somewhere. I don't know if it's here. I think it's in the studio here. I just don't know where. Yeah. thecryptoshow.com/listen live. Yeah, unless they have TuneIn. If they have TuneIn, the TuneIn code is SFD8D. So you would type tun.in/SFD8D, and that'll put you right on Logos' TuneIn channel. Yeah, the website's just good. The website actually is the TXLR stream and not the Logo stream. So you know at different times of day you would actually be hearing different things. On they're two separate feeds. Yeah. Oh my God, that's where Dan Quayle fought the war, isn't it? Yeah, no. He wasn't. He was there. Yeah, he was selling medical supplies. No. I'm just kidding. You know. Yeah. Non-pharmaceutical. So we have music. It sounds like. I'm just kidding. You know how like some college kids sell weed, dude. Yeah. I know it could have, but it wasn't. I know, right? All right, Rick, bring us in.
Welcome to the Crypto Show on 89.1 FM, New Logos Radio Network. We're coming to you live from the real heart of resistance, the most dangerous studio on the planet. And Vince Distributing, home of the Ghost Stunner and the Crypto D&D Studio, where we're printing and milling out freedom, undermining the banks and the man.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, well, this is the latest episode of the Crypto Show. It's a very unique episode here on August 2nd, 2017, a Wednesday. Danny is actually in the studio tonight, back in Austin, Texas.
Seems like forever. Of course, he took his 2 trips to spread the word about crypto to the cannabis legal states, and he had a blast doing so. And of course, he wouldn't have been able to do so without the support of our partner Dash. You know, that other cryptocurrency, the one with the shorter validation time, the instant authorization, that DAO that gets things done like in a blink of an eye. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Dash. You can go to dash.org to find out more, or check out some of our more recent videos. Not videos. Some of our more recent audio episodes on the topic. But anyway, he's back in studio tonight in Austin. As it turns out, I'm on the road.
Total Freaky Friday. It's like Freaky Friday or something. What's going on? Trading places.
It's like Bizarro World, man. Yeah. Exactly. It's like Tootsie, where I'm dressing up as a woman.
Well, you do that anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But on the weekend, whereas today it's Wednesday. But anyway, I'm actually in Bloomington, Indiana, visiting my old college professor friend. I want to give him a shout out, Craig Cravens, Professor Craig Cravens.
Craig Christ!
That is one of his favorite songs, by the way. So you're spot on with that. He is a graduate of Princeton and I forget his undergrad. But, Princeton, pretty impressive. He teaches Slavic languages and literature, primarily Czech and Russian, and he is one bad mofo of a professor and a person, and it's been 6 years since I've seen him, and I just wanted to give a quick shout-out. So, anyway, it's a good episode. I'm calling in remotely into the show. We'll see how that works. So far, so good, I hope. And we've got a couple guests on tonight. The second guest is going to be Jeff Berwick. Yes, you heard that correctly. Jeff Berwick, the Dollar Vigilante, will be coming on, I believe, around 8:30. In the meantime, we've got another special guest, and by special, I mean in the medically certifiable way that only a doctor can determine. Jonathan Mohan.
Hey.
He's been a previous guest on the show many times. He is essentially the head of, I'm going to be corrected on this, but the largest Bitcoin meetup in the world that takes place in New York City. Was that close enough to correct?
You can just call me Bitcoin CEO. I do respond to it.
Guess who? He is Satoshi Nakamoto himself. Bitcoin CEO Jonathan Mohan. Jonathan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I got twice as many reasons to celebrate as I did from yesterday.
Oh, really? And why would that be?
I don't know, because there used to be one Bitcoin, and like King Solomon thrust in the scenario of deciding which mother should keep the baby, the Bitcoin community just decided to cut that sucker in half, and now you get 2 babies, because that's how that works.
Now, here's the thing. That's a good analogy at first blush, but when you think about it, the whole point was King Solomon was trying to find the better mother by determining who would not cut it in half.
Yeah, I think both Bitcoin communities have raving narcissists that won't let go of power. So it's like if both people were the bad mother.
Good point. Okay, fair enough correction there. And by the way, speaking of which, I'm on Poloniex right now real quick, and I'm looking at the Bitcoin price, and assuming it's current, it's stayed pretty strong. It stayed about the 2,700 mark. So if that's any indication of the confidence of the market about this split, it's pretty positive. So
is that less to do with the confidence of the market and more to do with the fact that Polo has yet to issue the Bitcoin Cash for your corresponding Bitcoin? So you don't want to let go of Bitcoin yet because you'd actualize the loss of not getting the Bitcoin Cash.
That is a very good point. I'm actually glad you brought that up because you're right. People are holding on to the Bitcoin in the hopes that exchanges like Poloniex will do the right thing and issue them the Bitcoin Cash that is theirs as part of the what they call, I guess, the airdrop to each person.
Right now, Bitcoin Cash is about $300, $400. It keeps fluctuating pretty rapidly, but that's a non-trivial amount on top of the price of Bitcoin.
No, it's not. I mean, and if you think about it too, it wasn't even that long ago that Bitcoin itself was in the $300 range. The 2,700 or so range that we're in right now is the result of a big run-up in a relatively short amount of time from the say $200 to $300 range to 700, and the rest came rather quickly. So that is a pretty impressive so far price for Bitcoin Cash to be at. I absolutely agree. Well, Jonathan, real quick, since we're on the topic, do we have any indication from the exchanges that they're going to do the right thing and issue Bitcoin Cash?
So Kraken, I believe, currently recognizes it. I believe Bitfinex, I forget, it's one of those two. I keep messing up my names, excuse me. Supports it as well. If you go to CoinMarketCap, you'll just see basically the two exchanges that support it. Poloniex has put out a maybe on supporting it, but on August 1st, after the fork, they changed their terms of service to state that they're not liable for token splitting, and that they would just maintain consensus with one of those tokens, and that you can't hold them liable for those losses. So it's sort of like they're hedging both sides. They're saying maybe, but they're throwing the language out there that you can't sue them if you lose money because they don't give you your Bitcoin Cash. I think the most shocking thing is Coinbase, which says, well, we're not even going to acknowledge your Bitcoin Cash. Our stated policy is that we will never return to you your Bitcoin Cash. And Coinbase, I believe, has Bitcoins custodied on behalf of average consumers to the tunes of millions of Bitcoin. So
Wow.
we're potentially talking about almost potentially, $500 million to billions of dollars of client funds that they acknowledge is your money, but that they have decided to never give to you. Now they say, look, we gave you warning, we gave you some notice, you should have withdrew it, but you don't get to be a financial lender or a financial depositor for unsophisticated consumers and then complain that your consumers are unsophisticated.
That's a very good point. It's hypocritical basically, and even on Poloniex, they haven't yet listed Bitcoin Cash either as kind of an indicator of the direction they're going.
Well, it's difficult right now for Poloniex to list Bitcoin Cash or other exchanges, just because right now it takes about 12 hours to confirm a single block on Bitcoin Cash.
Oh wow!
Block times. Well, because it's the same difficulty as Bitcoin with like 2% of the hash rate.
Well, that's I've had
point.
8-day transactions on Bitcoin, so that's pretty quick.
I was going to say not long ago that wasn't a bad turnaround, but
if you stop paying 0 satoshis as a fee, maybe it'd go a little faster.
Yeah.
well,
In the beginning, I was told that it was free.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about Dash, okay? We're talking about Bitcoin.
No, I mean Bitcoin. In the beginning, I was told, yeah, you can send money anywhere in the world for free.
Yeah.
Wait,
but I actually...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please. Oh, I actually have an even more conspiratorially minded statement.
Did you
which
say
is
conspiratorial? I love it. Go ahead.
You're welcome. I know who I'm talking to.
You know your audience.
Yes. Which is, I personally, if I were to make a statement, I believe that Bitcoin Cash marks the moment where every single contentious or semi-contentious soft fork moving forward will cause a Bitcoin hard fork.
Really? Okay, to put that in some context, if I'm not mistaken, the hard fork that just happened was basically Bitmain's response to the impending soft fork, right? The user-activated soft fork. Mm-hmm. And so you're saying that this could be the same result every time a soft fork is proposed or implemented, and why is that?
Well, in later this month, we're going to have a SegWit 2x update, and we'll see how many people on Bitcoin Core decide to agree with the SegWit 2x change, or we might have Bitcoin and Bitcoin SegWit 2x and Bitcoin Cash.
And is this going to be just a total cluster F and disaster if that kind of thing happens, or what do you think?
Well, I just think it's more fundamental than that. It's that there's so much more money and so much more interest and so much more people who have less principles because they just came about because now they smell money. That if you could look at Bitcoin and you see blood in the water, whenever there's a soft fork, it's blood in the water, and you're just saying, you know what? If I could fork even 0.1% of consensus away from Bitcoin Core, I basically airdropped my own ICO'd token. And then a month after the soft fork, we can then hard fork consensus whatever we want on our altcoin. So if you look at how Ethereum Classic is now saying, well, let's make hard fork this it would never make. And at what point is it no longer Bitcoin and just an altcoin that did an airdrop, but did it through the method of a hard fork?
Wow, that's interesting.
What's the difference between a hard fork and a checkpoint where you just take the state of the blocks and then build your own blockchain?
That's a good point. I mean, it's the equivalent, yeah. Well, that's a fascinating thing to consider. We're coming to break.
I'll just leave you with this. I think Ethereum has ERC20 and Bitcoin has Bitcoin hard forks.
Ethereum has ERC20? Sorry, what is that?
So ERC20 is a method for issuing tokens on top of Ethereum.
Okay.
To build a token system on top of Bitcoin, I think the way you're going to do that is start hard fork and then have your own token distribution. So if you look at how Stellar tried to airdrop Stellar onto people with Bitcoin, what if they just hard forked Bitcoin?
Interesting call. Jonathan Mohan, we'll be right back. Stay tuned, guys. Jonathan, you're so brilliant.
So, yeah, Bitcoin's a lot like the Fed now. It can just willy-nilly print money whenever it wants. Whenever it wants a new fork, we get to, have another QE or what?
Well, it's sort of like getting married to one twin. That doesn't mean you get to fuck both of them. Like Bitcoin Core will always be Bitcoin Core, and it won't acknowledge the other Bitcoins as Bitcoin.
Sal's Daily, 5th place.
Well, what if? Go ahead.
I was going to say, so technically there hasn't been an increase in the Bitcoin. There's been some shitty altcoin airdrop that people are acknowledging as having value that shares attributes of the Bitcoin protocol.
Get 10 chances to win.
Right.
Remember it. $5 donation and a chance to win.
But Gavin Andreessen actually just announced, so we could talk about this after break ends, where Gavin Andreessen said that should the hash rate of Bitcoin Cash exceed Bitcoin Core, he will start calling it Bitcoin.
Wow.
Well, that would kind of be the case, wouldn't it, if that's what everybody wanted?
Well, you have not the baby's daddy, but the actual father of Bitcoin saying, I'm gonna call the redhead Bitcoin if it gets more powerful.
Well, and that's essentially what happened with Ethereum, I guess, right? I mean, in a sense, ETC is technically original Ethereum.
It is. Well, that was more different. One, they all had personal losses, so that's why they forked it. When the $30 million hack, they didn't fork.
Right.
The other is that Vitalik made it opt out, not opt in. So he just forced consensus, and then he just got the exchanges to list his fork as the as the actual primary net. So just when you went to put in a call to purchase ETH, you purchased the altcoin. But the weirdest thing is, from a technical standpoint, if all of these exchanges were capable of supporting ETC and ETH, there's absolutely zero reason why they can't give you your Bitcoin Cash.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about that too when we come back. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions before we get to Gavin and maybe that, if that's all right. Cool. All right. Let's start coming back. Rick, bring us back. Welcome back, guys, to the second segment of the Crypto Show. It is August 2nd, 2017, here on Logos Radio Network on TXLR 89.1 FM in Austin, if you're listening locally. If you are, you're more local than I am, because I'm in Bloomington, Indiana tonight. Don't forget to go to logosradionetwork.com and check out the ongoing fundraiser. If you donate, you can potentially win some cool stuff. If you don't win, you can feel some gratification and not to mention the gratitude on the part of the network for keeping this listener-supported network going. So please do that with all our thanks. And don't forget our other partners, Dash.org. Dash is looking pretty good right now for a lot of reasons, and Danny has already gone twice to promote Dash to cannabis legal states, and we'll probably do more in that regard. And Hill Country Home Improvements for all your roofing needs. They both accept and prefer Dash and Bitcoin maybe Bitcoin Cash. I don't know. We'll see. And of course, CryptoCompare.com with the news wrap up every Sunday. Today's Wednesday, but look forward to that on Sunday. And Defense Distributed for allowing us to use their offices. Don't forget to check out Cody Wilson's book, Come and Take It, The Gun Printer's Guide to Thinking Free. All right, we got Jonathan Mohan on the line, one of the more colorful and funny, but not to mention insightful and intelligent guys in the Bitcoin space. And
I'm sorry. Are you making fun of my biracial nature? Because I think that's what you're doing right now.
No,
I think you're pointing out the fact that some of us have a little bit more melanin than others, and I just want to let you know that I'm triggered.
Jonathan, there is a safe space about 30 feet to your right. I suggest you go to that safe space and to calm down for 5 minutes, and you can come back to the show.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
Or, Jonathan, just tune in on Facebook Live and just pick any one of these firearms laying out on the table.
You know what, Jonathan? I'm sorry I complimented your intelligence and your wit and your humor. My bad.
No, that was your mistake right there.
Well, I've learned better for the future, so once bitten, twice shy. Well, while Jonathan recovers for the next few minutes, I'm going to throw out a question to him anyway. He brought up a couple cool points we're going to get to in just a minute off air, but I just wanted to go back real quick to the exchanges just to clarify something that I think probably goes without saying, but let's go ahead and talk about it for a second. Does the failure to give Bitcoin Cash by the exchanges to customers constitute theft, in your opinion?
So I'm not a lawyer.
Fair enough.
But if you are and you have a fiduciary obligation to them, and you state, I acknowledge that this is your asset. I acknowledge that it has material wealth, or it's worth an actual amount. And on the basis of technical issues or me not wanting to logistically handle it, I will not return to you the money I acknowledge that you deposited in my account that I am holding on your behalf.
On the topic, you mentioned this off air, and this is a good segue. I kind of asked you if the split here was analogous to Ethereum and ETC, because we had talked about I had mentioned how ETC, Ethereum Classic, is technically the original Ethereum.
Which it is.
You mentioned, though, you made a comment off air about if they can handle that split, they should be able to handle this split. Did I read you correctly?
I do not understand the technical basis with which you could have handled Ethereum forking and then allowing clients to withdraw their funds in ETC from your account, where you won't allow it to occur with Bitcoin Cash. But even more importantly, even if the problem is non-trivial, the amount that we're talking about currently in market cap is so non-trivial that I just can't imagine you not making every best effort to give that back to your customers.
I mean, I'm with you on that one. Well, and so
this is going to be, Coinbase is going to have defrauded and stolen more money than Mt. Gox if they decide to not give people their Bitcoin Cash back.
By the way, I agree with you, and you know, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to predict that. And
allegedly, or not a lawyer, I'm using legal terms I don't know the definitions to, so I'm going to back that up because I don't want to slander anybody. But I mean, in my completely unprofessional opinion.
That's good that you add that. Well, in my completely unprofessional legal opinion as well, I make a prediction that Coinbase, at least, doesn't see any major ramifications from this, and here's why. Because Coinbase has been in bed with with law enforcement and regulators for a long time, and I'm not saying that isn't necessarily something that you, in a sense, that's unavoidable, obviously, in the space if you're exchange. But they've been so far up the butts of the feds, I wouldn't be surprised if they got away with this because of their ongoing relationship.
There's a very simple solution to this. Coinbase is a money transmitter in all states that they're able to receive the license, which I believe is 47. They're an accredited institution. They have every license, every dot, and every I, and every T. If you have losses of more than $100,000 on the basis of them not giving you money that they acknowledge that you own, and you're an American, I would call the FBI and report the fact that you're dealing with a financial institution that will not give you money that they acknowledge that they owe you.
Interesting.
Go to FBI.com, see how you can report a case of theft or fraud. But if you're an American and it's regarding funds of more than $100,000, that's how you do it.
That's good to know. I think there's plenty of people who are glad to hear that advice and probably should take it up.
Yeah, just go to the next Black Hat conference. They have a booth there. You can just see them there.
That's true.
Yeah,
you did mention that. I remember.
I did.
You just have to speak into your Alexa right before you go to bed, and I'm sure
Alexa,
it goes right to them.
Is Coinbase defrauding me, and should I contact the FBI? No, Coinbase is doing everything proper.
Well, that's like Kevin Mitnick, who was a hacker in the olden times. When he was hacking into a system, he would write into the terminal, "I know you're watching me," just as a practice. And then in his trial, the FBI agent said it spooked the hell out of him because there was no way for him to know that. But he's just somebody. He's just somebody who, like, everywhere he goes, he'll like just type in, "I know you're watching me."
That's so funny. I've actually done that. I'm not a hacker, but I've actually done that before on like Facebook, or just typed it into the URL. I figured it can't hurt. Well, we got about a minute and a half left till break. Another thing, real quick, we didn't get to a couple of the points I wanted to make, or that I know you had wanted to bring up. We'll do that on the other side. But have any of the exchanges used technical difficulty as an excuse not to release Bitcoin Cash?
You mean like Poloniex for the last God knows how many hours?
I mean, is that what they're basically using as an excuse? Is always too difficult?
I would have to look into it, but I believe Coinbase and Poloniex said on the basis of technical constraints. I know that Shapeshift just said we're going to shut down on the basis of technical constraints during this time. Not that they wouldn't acknowledge anyone's funds, but they're not a depositor, so they don't have this issue in the same way that exchanges do.
That's a good point. Well, anyway, good answer. I just wanted that to kind of be thrown out there. Well, we got about 30 seconds till break. We're going to bring on Jeff from the Trailer Park Boys. I'm sorry, Jeff Berwick from Dollars Vigilante. You know the guy. One of the greatest kids. I was waiting for it. But,
Jeff.
God. We'll be right back with Jonathan Mohan and Jeff Berwick. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good show. It's been one so far. So we'll be right back.
I hope I didn't stick my foot too far up my own ass there with calling it fraud.
That's okay. You have like silk shoes, right?
I don't know what that means.
Like, easy entry.
Under attack.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they won't get hung up on the laces.
Well, I mean, I would personally don't think so, but
they're not listening anyway, and hell, they won't even respond to our emails, so it's not like.
Yeah, we'll see.
Rick, go ahead and bring Jeff on.
I didn't help myself by telling people to call the FBI, though.
Why not?
I mean, if you're not giving people more than $100,000 that's rightfully theirs, and you acknowledge as theirs, and you have the capacity to return to them, that's just insanity.
Hey, Rick. Rick, you there?
Agree.
Yo, Rick.
Hold on a second.
Rick. Hello, Rick. Rick, are you there? Mr. Rick. Hello, Rick.
AIDS or cancer, and there's no telling who might wind up with
Rick.
it. This concludes internet privacy is a big problem, and it's getting worse. Just one more reason to stick with privacy-friendly websites.
Hey, Chris. Chris.
Catherine Albrecht. More news and information.
Chris. Rick. Yo, Rick.
What are you thinking? Micro plant powder with iodine and probiotic for a total body detox for around Rick. Micro plant powder for absorbing and removing toxins from your kidneys, liver, blood, lungs, stomach, and colon, and feel better than ever. It alkalizes,
hey, Chris.
Chris. The job of product that saves you space, time, and money. Call 888-910-4367 only.
Rick. Yo, Rick.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh.
Again, Berwick.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was on mute here.
Oh, okay.
I was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I was about to call you, but my phone's being used for something else.
No, yeah, my bad, dude. Let's see here.
Should we take a few minutes to
Calling Jeffy boy.
Yeah,
address some more things?
and of course, have Jonathan part of the conversation the whole way. So,
or Jeff? Well, that's what I'll do.
I'll
use Jeff, and then we'll get to a couple things like the again thing, and then
Right.
I want to ask him again about all that multiple splitting thing. We'll just have Jeff kind of hop in.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like you can let. I don't want to like talk. Like you can let him do his thing, and then just invite me into the conversation when it makes sense for me to start talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. If you
Hey, Jeff, how's it going? I see
Good, how
you're
you
connected. Doing good, looking great. Hey, man, I don't know. You don't have to stream the video because it's just audio, but it's up to you. It's whatever.
Right.
Yeah, we're on the commercial break. We're about to get back here. We got Chris, Danny, and Jonathan on the line. Mohan.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jeff.
Problem.
Jeff, you're looking good these days, man.
Thanks.
You still keeping up that smoothie fasting diet?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Good.
I've been eating live turtles, and it's helping a lot.
What?
Just they're
That's
easy
disgusting, Danny.
They're
Disgusting.
They're easy to catch.
That's
And real slow.
I know. They're hard to crack open, but they're easy to catch.
Oh God. like nuts.
Yeah, it's like walnuts with legs.
You weirdo. Bring us back, Rick. All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show. It is our third segment on this lovely August 2nd, 2017. I'm coming to you from Bloomington, Indiana. Danny's back in Austin. And, of course, our first guest, Jonathan Mohan, is up in New York. And now we have our second guest on. Very pleased to have him back. It's been a little while, probably since the last time we were promoting in Acapulco. Jeff Berwick, the one, the only, down in Acapulco, of course. He is the dollar vigilante, one of the guys who always seems to get it right when it comes to crypto. So definitely check out dollarvigilante.com. It can only help if you are invested at all in the crypto space. Well, Jeff, welcome back to the Crypto Show.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, sir. Appreciate you coming on. Well, Jeff, we've been talking about, can you believe it, the recent Bitcoin hard fork with this emergence of Bitcoin Cash. And, there's so many aspects to this that are just mystifying or concerning or hopefully encouraging. And I'm not sure what that encouraging thing is. And actually, let me start out with that then. What is one at least encouraging thing to emerge from this, or that you think will emerge from this?
Well, I think there's a number of quite encouraging things. One of them is that this was a major event in Bitcoin, and a lot of people were really concerned about it, what would happen. There was even some people saying this was the death of Bitcoin, which we've heard a few thousand times, of course. But actually, pretty much nothing happened in terms of the price of Bitcoin. In fact, almost everyone, except for people who held their Bitcoin at places like Coinbase, actually made money during this entire fork process, with Bitcoin now at $2,700, and as of right now, Bitcoin Cash at $450 for a total of $3,150, which is an all-time high for Bitcoin. If you count it all combined, so that is incredibly encouraging, because I've been around Bitcoin for a number of years, since 2011, and every year it seems to have some sort of fairly major event, which is quite normal when you have such a growing new technology, and especially what's so interesting about it is that it's a paradigm shift. So of course something like this is going to have problems. It's just impossible not to, just being created out of nothing when it's never been done before. And we've seen fairly major problems almost every year. And every year it seems to get by it without any problems whatsoever. So that's incredibly encouraging. And the other aspect of it that I find just really nice is just to see how the free market works. And this is the beauty of the free market. So there's no one regulating Bitcoin. There's no one who can control it. There's no Bitcoin CEO. There's no Bitcoin office. There's all kinds of different interests involved and how they're all interacting. But we're just getting very interesting things happening and a lot of value being created out of it. So I think it's been a very positive event so far.
By the way, a slight correction, Jeff. Jonathan Mohan is a self-professed CEO of Bitcoin. So just making sure you know that. No, but you're absolutely right. That's a really good point, Jeff, which is, this is the power of the free market, which we should continue to appreciate and not forget about. And part of the free market, too, is there's inherent risk in every asset, every transaction, every development in something like Bitcoin or anything commercial or business or technology related, and that's never going to change. That's just inherent to reality, and that's true under free market capitalism as it is true under some authoritarian socialist state. The good thing about free market capitalism is it tends to reduce risk over time. But like you said, even though people have called for the death of Bitcoin thousands of times, and Bitcoin has gone through many major tests, this one probably, or perhaps probably the biggest one or one of the biggest ones, it's still here, it's still going strong. And that's an encouraging sign all its own.
I'll be
back. Well, and we've been talking about the exchanges and how it looks like a lot of them, if not maybe all of them, are probably going to not return the Bitcoin Cash that their customers have in their accounts to their customers. We talked about that with Jonathan. We got his opinion. I imagine I can guess your opinion, but what do you think about that? Is that going to Is it right for these exchanges to do that? And do you see a major fallout if the exchanges continue to refuse to give BT Cash to their customers?
Well, I think, again, this is watching the free market in action. So all of these exchanges aren't regulated by anyone, which is excellent. They're only regulated by the market, which is all we ever need. And then the best regulator is the market. So, some of these exchanges decided to support Bitcoin Cash right from the get-go. And I'm pretty sure they gained a ton of new business. I know I personally sent over 1,000 people who signed up under my affiliate code at Bitfinex when I said that Bitfinex was going to support Bitcoin Cash. And I also mentioned that I do like that site quite a bit. If people want to check it out, by the way, it is dollarvigilante.com/Bitfinex. But then there was other exchanges as well. Kraken totally supported it. So they gained a ton of business. Then there was exchanges that were pretty sort of nebulous on it. And there was lots of those, and they lost a lot, I think, of business because of it, because they were kind of not supporting the market very well. They weren't really coming out and being ahead of the curve and telling people what they were going to do. Coinbase, of course, pretty much came out and said they weren't going to support it, which to me is a real travesty of, they're essentially, because we could actually see Bitcoin Cash, we can get into this a little later, we could see Bitcoin Cash become the actual Bitcoin. It could be the main thing that's used as Bitcoin in the future, depending on how things shake out, of course. They could have just robbed everyone of all their Bitcoin just now, and they have control of it all if they want to. So, that's pretty interesting. But that is the free market. They announced they're going to do that. People had the choice. They had enough time to take their Bitcoin off of there and put it somewhere where they would get their Bitcoin Cash. So I think Coinbase, once again, is going to get hurt a lot by what they've decided to do. And, of course, they are based in the U.S., which is land of the lawsuit. So there's probably going to be lots of lawyers and lawsuits involved, which is something that shouldn't even exist really in the free market crypto world, where everything should be under smart contracts and automatically executed and things like that. So we'll see what happens. And another one I should mention is Poloniex. That was they didn't support it, I don't believe, and I'm hearing a lot of not very good rumors about Poloniex. I don't want to say too much because I don't know for sure, but so we're sort of seeing some of the exchanges come out of this doing really well. As I mentioned, I think Bitfinex gained a ton of new clients because of how they handled it. Coinbase probably lost a lot, and others as well. So once again, it's the free market at work. It's beautiful to watch.
No, that's a very good point. We were focusing earlier only on the sort of potentially, we were focusing only on the exchanges that were potentially not going to give their customers Bitcoin Cash, but you're right. There are others who have so far committed to doing it. And I'm glad you brought up Bitfinex because I've really respected them ever since they got hacked and they made their customers whole by issuing those token substitutes, which I thought was a really brilliant idea. And then, it took some time, but they made all their customers whole. And that at least demonstrated that they were at least at that time, an honest company, and the fact that they're committing to giving their customers Bitcoin Cash only further demonstrates that. And you're right. That's because of the free market, and competition keeps people honest, or it tends to over time. So, that's good for all of us. And so, let me see. Speaking of which, we got about 2 minutes till break. Remind us again, what is the advantage to Bitcoin Cash over Bitcoin, perhaps, or why is this split possibly advantageous?
Well, I'm not saying Bitcoin Cash is advantageous over Bitcoin, the current Bitcoin, the way it is. What I am saying, though, is it's going to be very interesting how this plays out. Basically, this is the market in action, and some people believe that Bitcoin would be far better off and would run far better with larger blocks. And there's some people who believe that it should run with SegWit, which I think there's a lot of questions still about SegWit. This is far from over. In fact, I've got some serious doubts about SegWit, and so we're going to see in the coming weeks and months if SegWit really is an answer here, and if it's a really good solution to this issue of scalability, or if Bitcoin Cash turns out to be way cheaper and way faster. And what you'll see is just the market will start to move over to Bitcoin Cash. So we're going to see this all happening in the coming months. This is going to be incredibly interesting to watch, and we're just going to see which player ends up, and maybe both end up doing fairly well at the end. Maybe Bitcoin, as we know it today, the Bitcoin that we've been using for years, maybe that one will just be used more as a store of wealth. It won't be used as much in transactions if there's a lot of transaction problems. And maybe Bitcoin Cash is used a lot more in more day-to-day transactions, which would make a lot of sense. So we'll see what happens. This is absolutely fascinating, though, and it's definitely not over yet. We're just getting started on this story.
Very good point. I made a comment about that the other day on the show, that maybe Bitcoin Cash will finally be the microtransaction Bitcoin to the store of wealth of Bitcoin. Very good point, Jeff. We'll be right back with Jeff Berwick and Jonathan Mohan to talk about more of this on the other side. Stay tuned.
Or defendant in a lawsuit?
So when we come back, I want to ask Jeff about his doubts about SegWit, and then I'll probably want to transition to ask you a couple questions, Jonathan, like your increase in.
Hey, and also bring up what Jonathan said in the first segment about
all the splits.
Yeah, the splits happening just.
Yeah. No, great point. I was going to do that actually. So.
Jeff, I'm gonna pop the anarcho poco cherry and see you this next year.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people who I'm trying to convince to come with me.
See our audio class.
Oh, that's cool.
Convince on.
Yeah, I only ever hear good things, so I'll try to.
Oh, there's some bad things. There's definitely some bad things.
Well, there's a selective there's a survivor's bias in the stories that are told.
Well, there's too much weed. There's too much weed. There's too much beer. There's just too much.
Too much ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Nature'sPureOrganics.com.
I'm kind of terrified to know who Jonathan hangs out with.
Too much Mexican food. Just. I'm driving down there again.
They just call it food here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I know. There's too much food. Why that? I don't get that.
And alternative medicine.
Man, I remember Danny and I ate at this hole in the wall. It was a hole in the wall, but it was still, a pretty common size.
It was a storage unit. It was a storage unit right across from the hotel on the second year.
Pure organic.
Yeah, man. For $9, we each had beefsteak a la mexicana. 25% tip. It was like $9. It was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff, by the way, how long do we have you for?
I'd prefer if it wasn't forever. What did you have in mind?
We've got 4 segments, we have 5 segments left. Each about 12 to 15 minutes. Do you want to do like 2 more segments, or?
1 to 2 would be good.
Okay, we'll see how this segment goes. If you want.
Yeah, we'll just see how it goes. Sure.
Awesome. All right, Rick, bring us back. Welcome back, guys, to the Crypto Show. It is August 2nd, 2017. We're talking with Jonathan Mohan and Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigilante, and of course the founder of the world's first anarcho-capitalist conference in Acapulco, whose 4th year is upcoming. If we get some time with Jeff later, we'll talk about any details about that. But I want to get back to something Jeff commented on before we got to break, which was, one, I wanted to comment too real quick, something that Jeff was essentially implying, is that finally we do have options in Bitcoin. After the long-awaited block size resolution to the block size issue, we essentially have it now with SegWit 2x coming up and the Bitcoin Cash. There are at least implemented alternatives available. It may not be a total or complete solution yet, but it's there. It's some progress, and so far, Bitcoin has weathered the storm. But I want to ask you, you said you have serious doubts about SegWit, and I want you to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say I'm not a techie, so I'm not going to be pulling up charts of code here and showing exactly why I think there's problems with it. But from people I know who are pretty smart technically, they've been telling me that there's some serious potential issues. It might not be real issues, but it could be, and just the way that it's operated. And I'm sort of the kind of person, I could be totally wrong here, so I'm sure a lot of people will be saying, oh, you should be quiet if you don't know about tech stuff. But it seems to me like the more simple solution is usually the more elegant solution, and just increasing the block size seems to be the better solution in my just sort of very amateur mind. But I'm hearing from some pretty serious techies that SegWit has some potential major risks to the point of actually being potentially a danger to Bitcoin itself. The way that they do the SegWit, and I don't want to get into too much of the technical here because I'm going to look like an idiot because I'm not very technical, but I have looked through what some technical people have said, and they said there's some serious risks here of how this is going to operate. So that's why I say it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes.
Jeff, are you there? Is anyone there?
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah, we're here.
Hey, Jeff?
Yeah, well, I know one of the things I've heard, too, is, SegWit operates like off-chain. So what do you think about that, Jonathan? What is your opinion on SegWit until we can get Jeff back?
Well, I believe the current conversation is not surrounding SegWit, but SegWit 2x, which is a slightly different proposal, and that the signal activation threshold for miners who are claiming that when a date occurs that they will activate SegWit when they actually mine, that they will mine SegWit blocks, SegWit 2x blocks, has been met a couple days ago. So what that means is sometime this month, the network is going to, because I believe it's the past 400 blocks, I believe 80% or more, I forgot the threshold, were signaling that they would support SegWit 2x. So now sometime mid-August, Bitcoin is going to do another fork with a presumption that a supermajority of the hash rate will proceed forward on SegWit 2x as they had been signaling, and that we would get everyone to join the SegWit 2x chain. Now, people could be playing games and be signaling for something that they don't intend to actually run, or it could just be a super minority that just decides to keep running Bitcoin Core, in which case, by the end of August, we might have 3 Bitcoin.
Okay. I see Jeff is still there. Jeff, can you hear us now?
Yeah, sorry about that. I got kicked off somehow. But I just heard the end of that conversation. That's sort of generally what I was explaining, was it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen next few weeks and months as this rolls out. There's a lot of variables. We could see, if Bitcoin, the main Bitcoin has a major problem, we could see a huge boom for Bitcoin Cash. If it doesn't have any problems whatsoever, we could see Bitcoin Cash really quickly just go down dramatically as people go, well, why do we even need to? So it's going to be very, very interesting. It's definitely not something to take lightly as a person who's into Bitcoin or holds Bitcoin. Should be paying somewhat attention if you have a large amount of Bitcoin, especially just to see what's going on here, because there's a lot at stake here in the coming weeks and months.
Well, Bitcoin Cash just came out of nowhere, so doesn't this just open it all up to anybody who's a half-decent coder to just creating their own new Bitcoin?
Well, I don't think, you have to have a certain amount of mining power, that's for sure, and they did, the Bitcoin Cash people. So it's not like I could just start Jeff Bitcoin tomorrow and all of a sudden there's big problems, everyone's got to run around.
That would be funny, Jeff Bitcoin.
Yeah.
No, very good point. But it is, and even was it Danny? Was the guy Kevin Ryson, the one who was claiming that SegWit wasn't even truly Bitcoin because of the way it handled digital signatures? What was the guy's name?
It was Ryzen. I don't remember his first name, Philip or something.
Well, either way, I'm not technical either, and we had a guest on who disputed his claim, and we didn't get technically deep or anything. But let's just say this guy is correct. I don't know what technical implications it would have, but that's a rather remarkable thing to say about SegWit. The way it handles digital signatures, making it not even Bitcoin, and so that's just one among many criticisms from different segments that do make you wonder: is this as sure and confident a thing as it's being put out? And let me ask y'all too. Jonathan was just suggesting there could be 3 Bitcoins, depending on how SegWit 2x gets handled. If, as Jeff mentioned, SegWit 2x should be very successful, and Bitcoin Cash could just shrivel away. Well, what is the possibility of Bitcoin Cash gaining momentum? Is there a possibility of the core developers defecting to Bitcoin Cash?
Gavin Andreessen said something very interesting, who's sort of was kicked out by the people who currently consider themselves the core developers. And he just tweeted that if Bitcoin Cash's hash rate exceeds Bitcoin Core's hash rate, he will start referring to it simply as Bitcoin.
That's a good point. You brought that up earlier offline, and that's a pretty powerful statement on his part. And that is kind of like I had said earlier, what happened with Ethereum basically is, Ethereum Classic is technically the original Ethereum. But people went with sort of the bigger of the two. What would do you think would drive, and this is for either of you, what would drive such a monumental shift in the hashing power from one to the other?
Well, I think
we're losing
Jeff. Are you there?
He froze up, I think.
Well, I guess, Jonathan, if you would, take that question for me.
Well, I think that you can simply pay the miners. So, Roger Ver has a lot of money on both chains. So that there's nothing currently stopping him from just artificially placing an additional block reward per block to miners out of his own pocket for a month or two, just to get the hash rate up. The largest technical constraint to Bitcoin Cash right now's viability is that its difficulty is still Bitcoin's difficulty. Because it doesn't have the hash rate anywhere near commensurate to Bitcoin Core's, it's going to be a couple of months before its difficulty rate readjusts to what it's at right now. So, you're looking at block times that will make Bitcoin look like Speedy Gonzalez, because it's just going to take a long time for its 2-week adjustment to occur when it doesn't have anywhere near the hash rate that the difficulty parameter is currently set to.
Yeah, very good point. Well, I guess we'll see as time goes on how that kind of resolves itself. And we still don't have
Jeff. Yeah, Jeff's on the line.
Or what you could do, and this is sort of the tears that I've been drinking in that have given me joy, is just how many Litecoin maximalists have been entirely triggered by Bitcoin Cash. Because, we don't understand, if you want quicker blocks with 4 megabytes and SegWit, why wouldn't you just use Litecoin? I don't understand. Just use Litecoin. So I actually propose, I'll be the first, I guess, to publicly state, I think Bitcoin Cash should move over to script mining. And just literally be Litecoin, except be Bitcoin, and then freak the hell out of the whole Litecoin community as they realize that the only thing they had going for them was they pretended they were a different product.
Ouch. That was quite harsh. Well, let me just ask you real quick, speaking of which, why do you think Litecoin hasn't taken off? If they were the already reaching those goals of Bitcoin Cash.
Taking off is a very interesting term. We have an anchoring bias as humans where we normalize something and then compare everything to that. Litecoin market cap is currently Bitcoin's market cap in 2013 when we thought it was taking over the world. So
That's a
I
good
wouldn't in
point.
any way say Litecoin is anywhere near a failure state. It's sort of like if you were to do a product launch and you sold 1 million units, you would consider that a massive success. But if Apple were to do that, every stock analyst would say it's a failure. I would
That's
just
a good
say to
point.
proceed without an anchoring bias, because I would say by any objective metric of success from 4 years ago, Litecoin is doing just fine.
That's a really good point. And even the creator of Litecoin, who was a Bitcoin developer, I mean, obviously he's biased, but he went full-time to Litecoin development recently. And just to throw my analogy in, not that it's really necessary because you made a really good point, but I still think it's telling. You know, when they talk about in the foreign exchange markets, like, oh, the dollar is weak, what they fail to tell you is that all the currencies are weak because they're all being constantly debased. It's simply that the dollar is relatively weak compared to, say, the yen. And so that's a good example, too, of anchoring bias. That's a really good point. Well, we've got about a minute left till break. Very interesting discussion. I love this because our guests are so knowledgeable and expert at this stuff, and because I'm always confused about half of what's going on, especially recently with all the splits and stuff.
And Jeff is back on, by the way. So.
He is back on.
Yes.
Jeff, do you have a few minutes on the other side, or do you need to go?
I find that my connection keeps popping in and out, so maybe it's better I just take off and let you guys run with it from here.
Okay, Jeff. Well, I'm sorry about that. We always love having you. Your analysis and insights are always really helpful. We'd love to have you back on again, either to discuss this topic, or we definitely want to find out details about
And then,
Anarchapulco.
how about a plug for Anarchapulco in the last 20 seconds?
Just check out Anarchapulco. We just soft launched the website, anarchapulco.com. A really great website. You got to check it out. It's really quite a genius design by Leandro Dixon, and it's going to be amazing. 2018, we're expecting up to 1,000 anarcho-capitalists and voluntarists from around the world.
Perfect. Good ending.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, sorry for all those technical difficulties, but thanks for being on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
No
probably
problem.
that he's running video and it's interfering with the bandwidth or whatever. Yeah, when we're running this many people on Skype, audio only would probably be better. But
First, this new translation.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Right.
Too bad I'm not
Yeah.
in studio. If I had been in studio, it might have been better too. Jeff, real quick. So when is the date set?
Yeah, February 15th to 18th.
Okay, similar range. Awesome.
yeah, and then get there a week early and leave a week late.
Yeah, right. I might do that this coming year for once. Well, Jeff, again, thank you. Jeff, you're looking good. Glad you're in good health. And again, we appreciate your time.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Toll free at 1-888-551-01.
So Chris, you get a new
study bot.
sorry, I don't know if this is like the Ernie Hancock show where he records the in between segments too.
Yeah, it is on. Well,
Okay.
yeah, but Chris,
I was going to be entirely impolitic.
Bring it,
but now
Mohan.
I'll just be slightly less entirely impolitic. Have you acquired another female of the
He did quite
A female
well.
of the opposite sex.
Yes, yes, he did.
a female with vaginal components to them,
Yes.
not one of those newfangled 2017 females.
And he went to the upgrade store.
Oh, I'm more than delighted to hear you got the upgrade.
Oh, Jonathan, I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yes.
I was very fortunate to quickly get involved with an old friend, and she treats me a lot better than the previous one. And
Yeah.
She's pretty and she's smart and
blind.
And blind, and that's really what did it.
Yeah, I once slept with a deaf person, and it was fantastic because I get to try all the dirty talk I wanted with none of the guilt after. it was truly.
Oh my God!
What's funny is you're funny because it sounds like a joke and a punchline, but I know it's true.
It's not a joke.
I know,
but it's at some point were you just flipping her off or what?
Sure, we'll go
or
there.
him.
Okay.
But no, it was enjoyable. So the different people provide different experiences.
And have you ever slept with a blind person?
Temporarily blind, yes. Permanently blind, no. You know, you can't control where the hose goes at times, but no, I've never.
Were you the reason for the temporary blindness?
Potentially.
Oh my God.
I've never been with a blind person.
You may not want to confess to this during the recording because that could constitute evidence against you.
Against consensual engagement with a blind person?
Well, not consensual engagement, but against blinding them.
Gotcha.
In the first place.
Yeah, well, some water in the eyes or any other sort of fluid, it sort of tends to happen.
Oh my God.
Any other sort of fluid, you know what I'm saying?
Wow, lemon and ginger beer is really not all that bad. I thought it was going to suck.
I thought didn't you drink that the other day?
Remember I gave you one and you never opened it?
Oh, well, I couldn't determine if it was actual beer or not. I was trying not to drink.
Oh, yeah.
Look at you.
Well, no, don't look at me. 'Cause I'm at my heaviest, and it could be better. I'm trying, though. I'm trying to cut back on all the vices.
Yeah, I bought a book, and I've been reading it lately. I'm trying to help him out. I think it's called The Anarchist Cookbook.
I've never read that. I need to get that.
It's loaded with all kinds of different.
I was told the Anarchist Cookbook is
recipes.
designed to kill the person making the recipe.
Alrighty, big fella, we got the music. Are you ready?
Are there other stuff you want to talk about, Jonathan, by the way?
I'm sure I could come up with something.
I mean, there's still some stuff I want to ask you. We'll talk about the party, too.
Oh, sure. That was just a silly point.
Yeah, and the Texas Bitcoin Conference we can mention, and we can mention the 100X Investors Conference. We can mention the Blockchain Hotel Conference in September.
Wow.
There's just conferences everywhere.
All right, well, bring us back, Rick. Jeff Berwick's connection can't be trusted. Welcome back, guys, to the second hour. The second hour. I finally, my new lady friend finally helped me pop my, what do you call it? Trailer Park Boys cherry. I think I told you that the other day, but I can't remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's a big fan of the show, so I've seen several episodes already.
Oh.
I just watched, read a Vice article that Johnny Knoxville, he's cathetered up. His mani bits don't work as well as they used to.
What?
Yeah, he did a dirt bike stunt and ate a little bit of that dirt bike with his crotch and never was the same. So you guys, if you want to Google more about how the Trailer Park Boys sorts of ends as a story, it's a lot of not fun times.
So you're saying he did it for that show?
Yeah, it was of all the stunts they did where they actually put their lower region at risk. It was one that was just a dirt bike stunt, and he just landed on that dirt bike hard.
Man,
tore a bunch of stuff up.
Oh, poor guy. And it's probably a relatively easy stunt for those guys, like something they've done 1,000 times, but it's just like a pencil. You can write with a pencil all your life.
Was he a guest on the show or something?
Well, isn't he one of the Trailer Park Boys?
No, not Johnny Knoxville. No, he's what was it? I forget what it's called. Where they do the stupid stunt? Yeah, Jackass.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I confused the two shows.
Well, they're both both about equally low brow.
Yeah.
And they both involve retarded stuff. So I don't blame you for confusing them. But that's actually,
excuse me, differently abled.
Differently abled. Yes. Differently
abled. Forgive me. I'm gonna have to go to all our listeners are gonna have to go to a safe space for about 5 minutes now.
Well, political correctness is at the heart of cultural Marxism. So if you want to read your Mao, you can, get a little educated and maybe be a little more cultured.
That's true. Well, I love me some Mao and some Marx. I like that. I'm trying to think of a joke like something like, "Don't run your mouth. Stop being politically correct," or something like that, or "Quit running your mouth." Like your mouth.
Maybe we'll workshop that a little more.
I'm very cultured. I'm very cultured. I just had yogurt.
Let's workshop
Pretty
that
lame.
a little more. That was perfect. The perfect wording. Let's workshop that a little more. That's why I like having Jonathan on. He is hilarious. Oops. I just called him biracial. Sorry.
It's all right. My mother and father did it to me. You didn't have anything to do with it.
Well,
But all right, it's a curse I've had to live with. Whatever other I can be, that's always the other I am. So genetic superiority and social outcasting are sort of the two class traits of biracialism. So it's something I'm accustomed to.
Hybrid vigor in biology.
That is true.
You know?
Yeah, and if I ever need an organ, I'm either getting it from my brother or I'm dead.
Well, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's stop taking us off on tangents, Jonathan. No, I'm just kidding. But let's get back to Bitcoin nonetheless. I do want to get back to what you had mentioned earlier in the show about the possibility of all these Bitcoin splits and how, in your mind, you see any future soft fork potentially turning into hard fork. Can you?
A contentious soft fork. So it's that there's enough people who passionately dislike it. So if you look at the way that politics works, the way that a law gets passed is it's not that people care. It's that a small subsection of America has a disproportionate interest in a specific issue or component that no one else has a problem with.
Good point.
And that's how you get like, oh, it'll cost me a billionth of a penny, but it'll cost these 500,000 people $1 million a year. And I think that what we're seeing in Bitcoin right now is that these minority group interests who have asymmetric value interests with specific soft forks see them becoming hard forks when the opportunity presents itself. And I think another example of this could potentially be the SegWit2x activation. And I think most assuredly will be Mimblewimble integration, which is, should Bitcoin ever try to be truly fungible and anonymous currency, I think that will be so contentious that will be a hard forking moment.
Really?
Yeah.
And remind us of, we've had on
Andrew Polsta.
Andrew Polsta, thank you, about Mimblewimble. Remind us of what it is and how that relates to what you just said. So
I wish I knew cryptography better than I currently do, but as I best understand it, Mimblewimble is confidential transactions on crack. It's basically so Andrew Polsta was hired full-time from Blockstream to contribute just to his Mimblewimble implementation, which would be a way to have like zero knowledge proof or confidential transactions on Bitcoin.
So and like Zcash, but without Zcash.
Correct. That would be the end goal. And I believe that there's enough entrenched interests to not see Bitcoin truly fungible or unauditable, that they will just say that is not my Bitcoin.
Really? And who would constitute these interests to not see it truly fungible and unauditable? Because, again,
entities whose business model process relies around the immutable ability to publicly audit the transaction flow will be disproportionately incentivized to not acknowledge it. Any entity who is a company that has a multiple that's based on providing a service around the fact that Bitcoin is more KYCable, more AMLable, more traceable than cash, would see themselves actually losing value in their company on the basis of Bitcoin forking, could see inordinate interest in making sure that it's a hard fork rather than a soft fork.
That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like how, a lot of the interest against increasing the block size were people who worked for companies with, side chains and other technologies or models that, relied on keeping the block size limited. So that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. I can see it, though, in a legitimate way in the sense of, ideally Bitcoin would be, fungible and auditable, but at the same time, the universal ledger aspect of the blockchain can be useful for auditing. People do also need a truly auditable, traceable thing like a blockchain for certain purposes. But then you could, I guess, just make your own blockchain to do that. But maybe Bitcoin forks and remains as a currency that's not audible, and then remains as a blockchain other thing for other purposes. I don't know.
You also have the self-selective bias with anonymization, which is if you initialize a network with the explicit notion of being an anonymous network, then the self-selective bias would be that only people who adopt it are people who are interested in the characteristic of anonymity. Whereas if you include anonymity in Bitcoin as a characteristic, you get the small percentage of people who wanted anonymity benefited by the vast majority of people who couldn't care less if anonymity were there or not, but are happy that it's there. And that's its own massive value than just having a this is the pot coin, right? And then okay, well, if I want to prosecute people, let me go after pot coin.
Interesting. Well, good point. Well, and so what are the prospects, by the way, of Nimblewimble ever being up for being implemented?
That's a fantastic question for Andrew Polsta. I wish I kept up to date on how his musings are, but I have every good faith that he can achieve what he sets out to do. I think that the most likely outcome for Nimblewimble is that Bitcoin will not be the first blockchain that implements it, in the same way that you looked at SegWit and Litecoin implemented it before Bitcoin.
And do you think that if another blockchain or current or crypto implements it, will that constitute an advantage that may drive people toward that currency away from Bitcoin, or will it be kind of more like what seems to have happened with Litecoin? It certainly hasn't hurt Litecoin, but it seems to have just offered itself as an experimental other for people to see how it might go with Bitcoin. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, Ethereum exists in a state of a natural monopoly currently with secondary tokens on its network because Blockstream could never get sidechains implemented into Bitcoin. So we already have a pretty robust history of times where there were feature sets that Bitcoin could use that should be implemented that didn't get implemented and other blockchains came and provided that same feature set.
Interesting. And we got about 3 minutes till break. Well, I want to stick to that for a second. If I'm understanding you correctly, does that essentially mean that Ethereum has a unique functionality that Bitcoin doesn't, that should keep Ethereum around for a while? Like, everyone, there are Bitcoin maximalists who say it's Bitcoin or nothing. Everything could be put on Bitcoin. Every other crypto is going to die eventually. But it sounds like what you're saying is Ethereum could be around for a while, if only for that reason. Am I reading you correctly, or?
Well, I don't know. I think prognosticating about the deaths of the projects, I don't want to Peter Schiff you, because saying something's going to die, it's like, well, I'll just keep saying it hasn't happened yet, and then be right a decade or 2 decades from now, and then I get to be right.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I think that to the extent that these projects see themselves as competitors is to the extent that their immaturity is showing, because as you mature as a system, you make decisions and legacy costs with those decisions that make it such that you are best used for certain things and not used for other things. And to the extent that you think that you're good at everything is to the extent that those decisions haven't been made yet. You haven't matured to the point where you actually know what you're good at and know what you're bad at. Sort of like a 5-year-old saying, do you want to be a doctor? Yeah. Well, do you want to be a lawyer? Yes. Well, do you want to be an astronaut? Yes. Well, do you want to be a fireman? Yes. Because they don't know what they're good at. They just think they're going to be everything. And I think that as you look at both all these blockchain projects, they all believe they can be the everything to everyone. But as these systems mature, I think that the question is Ethereum and Bitcoin competitors would be as silly as saying, is JavaScript and C++ competitors?
That's a really good point, an analogy, and it speaks to the fact too that thanks to, I think, of the way a lot of these developers present themselves, we tend to think of them as gods capable of anything. But you're right; they may not be good at implementing certain types of code or developing it. They may have niche abilities, whereas we give them credit for having these global abilities that they don't have. And you're also touching on a point that I've made before, I feel, which is essentially there's division of labor and there's comparative advantage, such that Bitcoin might be able to do everything, or the Bitcoin devs, but that doesn't mean that it should, because it should stick to what it does best and let other people do the rest. Because just like in economics, That's how you get the most output. And that's even assuming the Bitcoin devs, as talented as they are, could actually do everything. So I like what you're saying. It's a very good point. Well, we're coming to break.
Go ahead.
Well, 10 seconds left. Whatever you're going to say, let's keep it to the other side, and we'll be right back. Jonathan Mohan, our guest, always insightful. Stay tuned.
Stop debt collectors now with the Michael Mears proven method. Michael Mears has won 6 cases in federal court against debt collectors, and now you can win too. You'll get step-by-step instructions in plain English on how to win in court using federal civil rights statutes, what to do when contacted by phone, mail, or court summons, how to answer letters and phone calls, how to get debt collectors out of your credit report, how to turn the financial tables on them and make them pay you to go away. The Michael Mears
Chris,
method is the solution for
how are you away from your AFK?
Personal consultation is available as well. For more information, please.
Yeah, there's a French fry nearby.
You can stop.
Banner. Michael Mears at yahoo.com. That's ruleoflawradio.com, or email michaelmirras@yahoo.com to learn how to stop.
But yeah, the ADD in me allows me to side tangent ad infinitum.
Right.
I genuinely side tangent for 5 straight hours.
Well, that's good.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you ever give me a mic and just tell me to fill content, I could just do it.
I'm glad you asked.
It's like with Alex Jones. All they do is they print articles in front of him, and then he just puts on like half-hour riffs.
Yeah.
Go to logosradionnetwork.com, click on the Amazon logo, and bookmark it. Now, when you order anything from Amazon, you use that link, and Logos gets a few pesos.
Do I pay extra?
No.
Do I have to do anything different when I order?
No.
Can I use my Amazon Prime?
No. I mean, yes.
Wow, giving without doing anything or spending any money. This is perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Happy holidays, Logos.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
Well, maybe I'll walk over if y'all are going to be up for a little bit.
Hey, Chris, you back?
How long? Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got music.
Okay, yeah, I had to split for a second.
Yeah.
All right, bring us back. All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show. It is our second hour, our second segment of our second hour, here on TXLR 89.1 FM on Logos Radio Network. Don't forget our partners, Hill Country Home Improvements, Dash.org, CryptoCompare.com, and Defense Distributed. And also, don't forget, check out in Acapulco. We're probably going to have a discount code coming up for you guys. Usually it's about 10%, might be more. We'll see. So stay tuned for that. Don't maybe get your tickets quite yet till we can get that discount code set up for you. We're talking with our guest, Jonathan Mohan. Always brilliant, always insightful, always biracial, and a wonderful guest. What were we even talking about? Okay, Ethereum. And
like JavaScript and C and the maturation of projects, understanding what they can do and what they can't do.
Right, exactly. And I hope you understand where I was coming from. I feel like we're on the same page and we're saying similar things about just, the natural limits that people have, whether more broadly or whether as programmers. And there's only so many, and the world is full of opportunity costs too. So you can't pretend to do everything because that's just not going to happen. But you had a comment to make. Do you remember what that was?
Well, it was to the notion of philosophy as well, that sometimes you can have two products going after the exact same value proposition, but have different philosophies in how they implement, and both genuinely be successes, and on the basis of their philosophy have fundamentally different products. So if you look at Ethereum, I looked it up a month or two ago. I'm not sure if they changed it, but their stated mandate is to build unstoppable applications. And if that is the vision that you wish to achieve and effectuate, that's great. All the power to you. But truly unstoppable applications have inordinate costs associated with the thing that you're making unstoppable. And maybe there isn't an aggregate value to the network of allowing anyone in the world to enable software that no one in the world can turn off. So if you look at the malware attacks that occurred on the NHS a couple of months ago, which, by the way, achieved a success parameter for Bitcoin, which was for the past 7 years, people said that Bitcoin will never go mainstream until grandma knows what it is. And the NHS cyber hacks got all of Europe's grandmothers well aware of what Bitcoin is. That at least is one box checked. So you could see, virtual machine implementations that say, well, if there's super consensus on turning off an application that is built into the protocol, we don't want to build unstoppable applications. And you could just as equally see both technologies finding a niche in the market and succeeding just on the basis of that one philosophical difference. So there are a multitude of ways that things can both succeed and not compete with one another.
That's interesting. That's a very good point. And as far as that division, but even then, like you said, the unstoppable. Would you want something that's truly unstoppable? Because even something that appears to be a good program under the right circumstance could be a form of malware or could be destructive. You wouldn't want it unstoppable. And then, of course, too, is something ever truly unstoppable in the sense of, every system, programmatic or otherwise, has weaknesses. And, the more you try to, the more complex you make it, the more vulnerability points you give it potentially. So is that even philosophically achievable or realistically achievable is hard to say, but very good points. Let me think. There's other topics we could potentially get into, but are there any other things you can think of that we can discuss concerning Bitcoin Cash or SegWit or this recent topic?
I think we've burned through them all that I can come up with immediately.
I feel the same way. If Jonathan Mohan can't come up with anything else, I don't think anyone else can. So
well, it's just Bitcoin Cash is such a new topic that I have yet to actually form an opinion on it because so much of it's still up in the air. So you would just be prognosticating in an immutable fashion that people could go back to and be like, well, he was completely wrong because they have the benefit of 5 days more information.
Oh, right. I mean, obviously that makes a huge difference. Well, let me ask you one more thing. I mean, we've kind of touched upon it, but Jeff Berwick made the point essentially, and I echoed it. But do you think that Bitcoin Cash could end up coexisting with Bitcoin and be complementary to it, particularly in the sense of Bitcoin Cash could finally be that microtransaction, cheap transaction fee Bitcoin, while Bitcoin remains the sort of store of value? Do you think that dichotomy is doable?
I think that there's a bias in wealth where once you think you have money, you feel like you have an incentive or the desire to perpetuate that notion. So people perceive that they have Bitcoin Cash and that it has value, and they can very easily come to consensus on whatever changes are necessary to perpetuate that perception of that value. So if it comes to the point where Bitcoin Cash acknowledges that they need to hard fork a different hash rate, or if they need to use, what was it? I think it was like DigiX, the DigiX blockchain. They made the per block blockchain readjustment in conjunction with Doge back in like 2014. Like if Bitcoin Cash needs to use that, the economic consensus will come to that. If Ethereum showed anything, it's that the only thing that matters is economic consensus on what defines a parameter in your blockchain. So I think that Bitcoin Cash is here to stay. The question is how many attributes will maintain consensus with Bitcoin Core and won't be hard forked into something materially different.
Okay, good point. Kind of alluding back to what you were saying about the potential for multiple hard forks. Well, speaking of which, one more clarification I want from you is you corrected me slightly on what you had said, which is that for any contentious soft fork, you expect to see a hard fork. What does constitute contentious? I mean, is there a general percentage divide that is technically seen as contentious, or
I would say there's insufficient data to draw any hard or fast rule, but that the statement that I said as it relates to lobbying, where you have a minority that has a super incentive to maintain a parameter that the supermajority don't care about, that would be what I would consider contentious.
Gotcha.
And that number can be 3%, that number can be 5%. You know, the thing about Bitcoin is that in almost every parameter, it's orders of magnitude larger than it was 3 or 4 years ago. So, to say, well, we only have 10% of the Bitcoin network that's going to hard fork this parameter, they're not going to do that, not realizing that means that double of what Bitcoin was in 2012 is going to do something.
That's
Right?
a good point. Yeah, no, people fail to kind of keep that into perspective. Kind of like in a vaguely analogous way to what you were saying about how Litecoin, people perceive it as a failure, but in reality, it's where Bitcoin was at in 2013. You got to kind of keep all these sort of, I don't know how you'd put it, running tabs in perspective of when thinking about
people have an anchoring bias because they denominate success by pegging it to Bitcoin. But, if you have a startup and your buddy has a startup, and you're worth $5 million, he's worth $50 million, did your startup not succeed?
Exactly. I'll take the $5 million any day. If he has $50 million, yeah, let him have it. And I would still, yes, definitely consider myself successful. So that's a good point. Again, people need to keep that kind of principle in perspective when talking about a lot of the aspects of this.
Hey,
That said, a simple analogy to explain why Litecoin should exist always made me laugh. Because my favorite Litecoin, just triggering Litecoin maximalist makes me happy. Back in 2013, if you remember Feathercoin.
No.
And Feathercoin was one of the first poop coins that came out. It came out in 2013, and it went from 0 to I think like 70 million in market cap or 40 million in like a month, and then immediately crashed. And way that it was one of the first like crazy pump and dump coins. And the only difference between Litecoin and Feathercoin was that Litecoin said that they would be Bitcoin silver, that they would have 4-minute block times, I believe it was 4 minutes, and that they would use script, and that they would have a market cap of I believe it was like 60 million. Feathercoin said that they wanted to be the bronze to Litecoin silver, that their market cap would be like 200 million, and that they had faster confirmation times than Litecoin.
God, is that all it takes to get people?
But it was the argument, as the way that Litecoin popularized itself was like, well, we're the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and people were like, well, that makes sense in the real world, so clearly I should buy this.
Right. No, a good point. So, I mean, by extension, you could argue that Litecoin should have gone the way of Feathercoin, really, because
I don't know about that, but the economic consensus is a really interesting thing, and for a very long time, Litecoin's fundamental value proposition was that Bitcoin needed a trade pair.
Very good point. Well, we're coming to break with Jonathan Mohan. We got 2 more segments, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Wow, that was good. Hey,
my burp.
So this post came out 2 hours ago from Jim Mars's family. He died.
No, you're kidding.
He died. Yeah, he died today of a heart attack. And it says they will celebrate his life next month with a Texas-sized wake at our house.
Oh, you're kidding. We should go.
Yeah, Dallas.
He's up in Dallas, right? Yeah.
This announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private.
Now I feel kind of creepy because the last picture I had with him, he was dressed as a zombie.
Oh God, that is kind of creepy.
It's Parkinson's disease.
Well, if you go to the wake, you can get another photo with him dressed up like a zombie.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, I know it's in poor taste, but
that's what I love about it.
He had a great sense of humor, so I don't think he'd be mad.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you familiar with who he is?
I'm sorry, I didn't have the pleasure to know.
Oh, okay. He wrote the book about the JFK assassination. One of the first tell-all books on the JFK assassination and how it was conspiracy and blah blah blah. I believe his book also points towards LBJ.
Yeah, it does partly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever your opinions on that whole, whatever anyone's opinion on the conspiracy side of it, his book Crossfire is one of the most definitive and thorough examinations of an alternative theory and the facts and stuff.
Did you watch 11/23/36?
I'm an Air Force pilot. I'm a
father.
No. No. Was that series about?
Yeah, it's a miniseries on Netflix about a guy who discovers a portal back in time, and it brings him to 1960, and then basically he gets it in his head that he wants to save JFK.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd seen the previews for it. Isn't it good?
It's if you. I have lower standards for James Franco, so I just watched it expecting what I got, and I got what I wanted.
So basically, just hot shots of James Franco.
It's enjoyable. He has a funny face.
Funny face.
7-5. Or go
Yeah.
to country improvements.
Like, you think he has a funny face in general, or he does for the show?
No, in general. I like his micro expression and anachronisms.
Town roofers come
Interesting. Also, like, pay more attention to that.
512
Yeah.
9287.
And you mean James Franco, the handsome guy with who's
kidding about
fuck, what do you call it?
Spider-Man.
Seth Rogen.
The closeted homosexual James Franco.
You think so?
Oh, dude, have you? All right, so Google gay films James Franco has been in.
I'm kind of afraid to infect my computer.
And then you will get a list of all the times he's had gay sex on film.
What? Okay, I have to do this. Hold on.
Quote unquote fake gay sex.
We got music now.
Well, all these movies come up, really? Milk. All right, bring us back, Rick. Broken I was just told to search something. I won't tell you what it is. It may not be appropriate for radio, but let's just say it might just blow my mind about James Franco. more to be determined after further examination. We're talking with Jonathan Mohan, who not only knows a lot about Bitcoin, but about a lot of random, strange, obscure stuff as well, about James Franco and other things. But a lot of good insights from Jonathan about all this stuff. That's why I like having him on. We should have him on more often. But we'll probably switch topics here going forward. But I want to ask you though. It's relevant, sure. Well, tell us more about this party. You had a hard fork party last night or the night before.
Yeah, so we celebrated the forkening.
The forkening.
So a month ago, I had a colleague reach out to me who the company Skillshare has a fantastic office, and they are fortunate enough to own the roof that the building that they're in is on. So he graciously offered the roof and said, "Why don't you invite out as much of the blockchain community as you can, and we'll have a party."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I know the perfect date to do it, August 1st." And I said, "Let's party the forkening away." And it was a nice little event. A good, I think, all told, maybe about 300 people came out.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and it was drink and merriment, and laughing about Bitcoin, and checking coin market cap, and it was a lot of fun.
Laughing about Bitcoin. How could you laugh about Bitcoin?
And you laugh about Bitcoin every day. You laugh so you don't cry.
That is so true. That is so true. You're so wise, Jonathan. And wait, what building was this on again?
The Skillshare office.
Oh, okay. And in New York City, right?
Yeah, they're in Soho.
So how big is this roof, by the way?
Oh, I would never try to out carpenter the carpenter we have on the show, our general contractor. So I don't actually know. I don't know dimensions that well. I don't know roofs that well. But it was well,
big enough to accommodate 300 plus, I guess, huh?
Let's just say that it was sturdy enough that I'd feel comfortable inviting you up there.
Well,
well, you just
you
said
need to
you don't want to
refer when you're referring to roof size. Be sure to use squares, which is a 10 by 10 area.
Good to know.
100 square feet.
Or be sure to use Chris's, and that's the minimum capacity load required by law.
Yeah.
Every time I'm on a roof, I get scared of those YouTube videos I see where the roof wasn't rated for people to stand on it, and then it collapses.
Oh my God, that's terrifying. I just think of those roofs where they have part of the roof is just a glass floor, that people can walk on. I think the Sears Tower in Chicago has it.
Yeah, the Grand Canyons have that too.
Really?
Yeah, they have a U that goes out over the Grand Canyon, and it's made entirely of glass.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Yeah, and I believe there's a bridge in China made of glass.
Oh my God, yeah, the Chinese are crazy. Like, yeah, I think I've heard of that bridge. Or there's like there's like this huge, one of the tallest mountains in the world in China, where they have a pass, and it's like you literally have to like rappel. Like the pass is like shorter than your foot, and you have to like walk across it for like hundreds of feet, and you're literally just clinging to the side of a mountain unsupported, and all you have is like the rocks in this little like pass 6 inches wide. Anyway, it's Chinese are crazy and terrifying. Anyway, but I like your joke about my weight, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just a horrible person.
You are. But you out-carpentered the carpenter on that one, because that's his main focus is making fun of my weight. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. I actually need to listen more to your guys' show, but I know every time I do listen, there's at least 10 or 20 jokes that demean you in some material fashion. So.
Yeah. Right.
So you do listen. Aww.
That's our shtick, man.
We had this conversation. I listened to you guys all sped up. I have on my podcast, I listen to it at 1.75x, so you're talking almost double the rate that you are normally.
That's pretty impressive. My buddy does that, and he claims it's a really efficient way to listen to podcasts. And it's true.
I'm also just a really arrogant New Yorker, and I think every human that's not from New York is a slow talker, and I find it infuriating.
Dang.
I know you guys don't have cognitive deficiencies, but I just know that you're not New Yorkers. And it's just in my personal life on my own, I just need to correct that as quickly as possible.
I believe he does think we have cognitive deficiencies. He doesn't want to admit it because he's the guest on our show. That's okay. I forgive you. Well, let's switch gears. I know we could talk about maybe some of the conferences coming up, but any other stuff in the crypto realm in general that you've kind of found interesting to discuss?
I don't know if you spoke about it yet. I would be shocked if you haven't. But what's going on with BTCE?
Yeah, we didn't do that yet. Basically, the U.S. government thinks that they can just go to any country they want and take their websites.
Well, the allegation was made that BTCE played a significant role in the Mt. Gox stolen funds.
Really?
That's the way that I heard it. I would definitely recommend for your next episode to get someone well-versed in that drama to talk about it. But as I currently understand it, the perpetrator of the heist put the funds into BTCE to try to launder them through BTCE, but that it was such a substantial portion of their balance sheet that they had to have been a part of, complicitly a part of the deposit.
Well, that just makes sense kind of on the surface anyway.
And then the guy that they've arrested, I guess BTCE claims that person is not even associated with BTCE.
Right, but that comes down to what level of accomplice or complicity do you have with that person's actions?
Yeah, that's a very good point, and so it's sometimes hazy or whatever, where they try to minimize it, obviously, to get away with it. Well, and so I had heard, unfortunately, I'm mostly ignorant of this, but I had heard that ongoing investigations had determined that Mark Karpeles was likely innocent. Is that true, or is that simply a mistaken conclusion people made about the fact that BTCE might be complicit?
Well, innocent is contingent on what he was charged with, and I am entirely ignorant of Japanese law. But But I just expressed that this is something that I find extremely interesting, and I would love to listen to whoever you have way more knowledgeable on the topic list talking about it.
No, that's a good point. We should do that. Do you have any suggestions by chance, or?
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't want to put anyone on the spot, but I'm sure we can communicate after.
We'll talk off air. We'll talk off air. And although I imagine if you had suggestions, you'd probably already be talking to them and would know. But yeah, we'll talk off air about that. That would make a really good show. So we'll have to do that. Well,
yeah, maybe you can get Trace Mayer on that, and sure he can talk to no end about that.
That's true. He was just on our show recently, actually, and I love talking to him. He's a really smart guy, and always really good analysis. Well, and speaking of Trace Mayer, we saw him in Acapulco last. So you are coming to Acapulco this year, you're saying, right?
It's my intention to make it out. I can't speak that far out in advance of my schedule, but if I'm not paid to be elsewhere, I'll do my best to make it out.
Well, don't worry. If you make it down to Texas, just let me know, and I'll sneak you across the border because you are a little brown. It might be hard to get you into Mexico.
Yeah, I actually spoke. Zero Hedge had a conference in Marfa, Texas.
What?
Marfa, Texas, 2 months ago, I think it was. So I flew my butt down all the way from New York, went to El Paso, and then had the great pleasure of driving for 3 hours to get to middle of nowhere Marfa. I saw the Marfa lights, so I'm a believer. No, not in any way. I'm like,
it's just hippies with candles, right?
No, but it's so far away. You don't understand how much energy that requires, bro. It's like 20 miles.
Oh, God. Is it impressive at all, or is it just like, wow, there's some lights?
Do you know what a street light looks like? Far away.
Yes.
Well, the impressive part is that it turns off and then it turns back on. I can't say I had no role to play in this because I was the passenger and I did feel a little evil. But that one straight shot road from El Paso to Marfa.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back from break.
Jonathan, they're saying, let's see, Nathan. Hey, Nathan, I see you're listening. Peace. Anyway, Nathan's saying we might be able to get you on as a speaker after hearing what you have to say. So,
okay.
For Acapulco.
Yes. Was it the deriding and snide things I said to Chris, or was it the Bitcoin announcement?
No, he's a New York asshole as well, so he just likes that you're a New York asshole.
Well, deriding me was the threshold. That was the first test.
Yeah.
It was a multifaceted fact pattern analysis.
Right.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'll give Nathan your contact info and everything.
Sure, go ahead, dox me. Just be that way.
Okay. Well, don't worry, I'll give him your fake name.
There you go.
What was your fake name again?
I don't know. I think Jonathan's the fake name.
Okay.
It's funny. I get territorial of my last name. I've encountered one brown guy who's coming out of meetups whose name is Mohan. And I'm like, you OB. That's my thing. You don't get to take my unique identifier in this space.
Well, don't worry. When we smuggle you into Mexico, we'll change it to El Mohan.
My mother's maiden name is Rodriguez, so I am a Rodriguez.
Cool.
So that is Mexican-y enough.
Fucking A, we'll stop for tacos.
Do I have time to piss?
Probably not. You got 19 seconds.
You'll receive our audio classroom, video seminar.
So I've lost my sense of time. Was the Marfa, Texas stuff on air or off air?
Yeah, it was on air.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I was like, it's just blur. It's like, Joe Rogan does that.
Yeah.
He gets weed and whiskey and just gets you drunk so you forget that you're talking with a camera.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know. It happened to Alex Jones.
Saw that.
Yeah, that was pretty epic.
When he wrote about the way things are and the way things ought to be, he gave
You ready, big fella?
this world had never seen. Bitcoin and
Oh.
Bitcoin. I know you're going
Hold on.
knows till everybody knows your name.
All right, bring us back, Rick.
The bold Mount Gox about traders miners mining blocks.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. Oh, that's solid. Thank you so much. Really, I don't deserve the accolades, but I do. What? welcome back to the final segment of the Crypto Show. By the way, I want to give a shout out to my lady friend for looking after my cat while I'm gone. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you let her pet your pussy. That's cool.
Oh my God. You just had to ruin it, didn't you? No, I'm just kidding. Which is great because my cat got out for a bit. My cat's an indoor-outdoor cat, but still, I always worry when she gets out.
That's not code for something, is it?
Maybe.
Okay.
No. This is my cat Tobes.
Okay.
Her name is Tobes. She's a cutie. Anyway, welcome back. We're talking with Jonathan Mohan, who may be going to Acapulco this year, and we'll see how that goes. I hope he does, because Acapulco is a fun time. Don't forget, you can get your tickets, but wait just a little bit while we set up a discount code through the Crypto Show, like we've done the previous 3 years.
Go ahead and take advantage of the early bird special. You don't have to wait on us. We still support the conferse either way. So yeah, there's an early bird thing. So I mean, whatever saves somebody more money, all the better.
No, fair enough. I didn't realize there was an early bird thing. I probably knew that from last year.
Because if they don't love and want to support the show, they can buy the ticket now, and if they do want to, make sure that you guys can keep doing what you do, then maybe they'll wait.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, Jonathan. Thank you. If you've got your priorities straight, you might just wait. Yeah. So just keep that in mind, boys and girls.
Maybe that Dasher holding will go up so much that then it really is the greater discount to hold it.
There you go. Exactly. Always insightful points from Jonathan. What about the Texas Bitcoin Conference? You going to be making it down here for that?
Oh, I would be absolutely delighted if there's a couch with room for my lard of an edifice. I would love to just plant myself on it and spend the nights there and spend the rest of the day.
I'm sure we can arrange something for that, but it's going to be October 28th and 29th. And we've got a place picked out. It was going to be on the UT campus, but apparently they don't really appreciate Bitcoin, so we had to move it to a new venue. But it's actually a nicer venue in North Austin, so we'll see how that works.
What is it? Do you remember? Can we not say yet?
I don't want to say yet, just in case that isn't the actual location. It could change.
I don't know. Could I have Halloween in Austin? Maybe just asking.
That's what we're hoping. This will be the weekend of Halloween, and you can just join all the other crazy people on 6th Street and run around in circles while they have the streets barricaded.
That sounds like, but I don't know. I have not been to Austin. I left, I believe, 2 weeks before they banned Uber and Lyft. So it's going to be an entirely different experience.
Well, no. Uber and Lyft are back.
Yeah.
Oh, they're back. That didn't last long.
Yeah. No, it lasted a year or a little more than a year, whatever it was.
For the Texas Bitcoin Conference, though, I will be reaching out to Arcade City drivers who will accept Bitcoin. So we'll get as many Bitcoin drivers on hand as possible.
I would be delighted to do business with an Arcade City person rather than an Uber person.
And honestly, especially for an event like or around the time of Halloween where it's going to be crazy, Arcade City offers a lot of advantages because you can schedule with them in advance. You can ask for specific drivers. You can negotiate your driver fee. So you may know that already, but I'm letting our listeners know as well.
When I flew from Vegas the other day, I booked my flight, my ride as I was getting on the plane. So there was somebody waiting for me when I got there at the airport.
There you go. And even if you do it last minute while you're downtown, there's a good chance Uber and Lyft are going to be swamped anyway. So you might as well try Arcade City. And so they even do, kind of carpooling stuff too. But yeah, man, you could always potentially sleep on my couch because it may be the only couch that could accommodate your fat butt. But, we'll find arrangements for you if you come down.
Korea was a very scary experience for me because they don't know what humans over 200 pounds look like. So I may or may not be able to state that I broke one or more chairs while I was in Korea. Which is just, it's nature's way of saying you don't belong here.
That is. And I'm surprised they didn't just, execute you right there.
That would be the other side of the 39th parallel, I believe. 49th? 39th? I need to remember 47. Someone's going to...
The other side of the DMZ, either way.
Yeah.
And you're pretty tall, too. Aren't you 6'4", 6'5"?
Are we ASL? Are we going to... I am a... 6'2".
8 sex location, please.
235, 240-pound gentleman who needs to lose about one 7-year-old child's worth of fat.
I like how you had to make it about a 7-year-old child.
Well, my little brother is he's 9 right now, so I basically just need to lose all of him in body fat, and then I'm quite content with where I would be at in my life.
You should try bacon. Works great.
The Atkins diet.
I don't know. I just cook everything in bacon and lost a whole bunch of weight.
I will say low carb is the way to go. Atkins or something similar, because I lost. I gained it all back, unfortunately, but I lost 60 pounds doing that a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, let's see. We got about. I'm glad I used up half that segment. We got about 5.5 minutes left. Any final thoughts for us, Jonathan? Any last topics you want to bring up in the Bitcoin space, or it doesn't even have to be about Bitcoin, whatever you want.
Well, I would like to say that my experience of Marfa would lead me to not ever want to return. I felt like I was dying every time I inhaled that dry, desolate air.
Not bad, really.
And they were super, super, super liberal there. It's apparently an art enclave. And apparently people complained about the zero hedger showing up there. Crimping the, Marfa, Texas vibe.
Well, and you're right. I've never been, but I know people who live there or actually work there or have been there. And it's basically a sort of Austin oasis. Austin's super liberal. A lot of libertarians, though, thankfully, in Austin. But there's a lot of Austin hipster liberals that have moved out there. And that's the reason Marfa is the way it is. So
I say thank God for liberals here in Austin. We need somebody to make sandwiches.
That's so cruel. That's so true. Well, all the more reason to come to Austin so you can sit in studio with us on one of our next shows.
I would love to check out what the CNC milled Ghost Gunners look like, because I have perused what a Liberator looks like at PorkFest, but I've never actually seen anything made by the CNC mills.
Dude, and they're pretty cool, and they're coming out with some new additions that I don't know if they'll be that structurally different, but they're going to be able to do a lot more than what they've done previously. And just seeing their new facility too. Did you ever see their old facility when you were here?
No. The best I got was Cody Wilson popping in, but I didn't actually get to see his venue.
Well, you'll probably get to see Cody Wilson, but the new venue. Sorry, what was that?
That was a gasp. Was
that a good gasp?
That was a good gasp. Yeah, I know. He's an enjoyable person. He's somebody who very much has spent time learning different words with flashcards and tries to use them as much as possible. And I actually had spent hundreds of hours on my own learning to do the same thing. And he outwords me all the time. So it's good. It's a muscle I don't get to exercise with someone I never talk to. But
I bet there's other muscles you'd like to exercise with him as well.
Right. Well, be sure to join his new platform, Patreon, for those people who get kicked off of Patreon.
Hey, isn't uncensorable Patreon called Bitcoin? I believe that's kind of how that works.
Wait, what did you say?
I said, isn't uncensorable Patreon called Bitcoin?
Yeah, right.
That's a very good point. Just send it to his Bitcoin wallet if you really want to support him. That way they can't shut you down. And that's what's so sad, too, is Patreon was supposed to be, for instance, an alternative to YouTube, shutting down a lot of YouTubers from getting money. Like they would flag people's content as say rude or disruptive or inappropriate when it wasn't anything like that. And so
it's worse than that. I believe yesterday or today, YouTube has announced that they will be thought policing content on their network. So there's now a new category of content which is called either misleading or hateful.
Wow.
And they demonetize it. They remove all comments, remove all likes. They do not let it get suggested, and they do not let it get recommended. And then they also, I believe, you have to log in order to view it.
Are you serious?
And the way that the permissioning system works for what gets flagged is they're using Snopes to determine what is misleading, and they're using the American Defamation League for what's considered hateful. Incidentally, the American Defamation League was the body that says that Pepe the Frog is a neo-Nazi white nationalist symbol.
Oh my God! This is all for real.
And I can tell you some more about it. They also said that for sensitive subjects, that if you're searching the impolitic form of the statement, that they will resolve the curated content that's the appropriate content. So if you're saying, like, I want, I'm a conspiracy theorist and I want to see a 5-hour video on Obama being born in Kenya, they would have curated content appearing above that, which is videos debunking the birther theory, rather than rendering videos for the search parameter you put in.
Right, because the search parameter would show you both, but now they're just going to exclude one half. That's crazy. Even the logging in, I can tell you from personal experience, I'm so lazy, and most people are. If I have to log in to view something, I'm not going to do it. So this is fascism is what it is, and that's ridiculous on YouTube's part. Well, and Patreon's not any better anymore. Anyway, well, we're coming to the end. Jonathan Mohan, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, man.
You're awesome. We'll see you next time, guys.
Well, I guess we can never put this up on YouTube now.
I know.
What was that my doing? Oh, just because of them monetizing it. Yeah. Yeah, I'll find an article about that, and I'll Facebook it to Danny. I Facebook Danny now because, Chris, you never respond to my Facebook message.
Damn it, no. Oh, no, Facebook.
Chris
I'm
doesn't
really
respond
lazy
to
about
anything. Yeah, he doesn't answer his phones or anything. And if you put, if you'll disguise your number with McDonald's or French fries on it, he'll answer that. That's the only thing he answers.
Plus charts and
Jonathan, I am really bad about that. I do that. The girl I'm seeing complains that I don't respond to her texts enough.
Well, then I appreciate the fact that you're as negligent with me as the person who means the most to you in life.
For real, and I respect you and like you a lot. It's not personal.
I don't. I'm an adult. I don't internalize that at all.
Well, no, and I respect your maturity on that matter, but still, I do it to everybody just because I get lazy and I get bogged down, and I'm interested in what people have to say or send me. But then I realize I want to send back something like a really monumental response in return, and then I start to think about how long that'll take, and I'm like,
Oh,